Welcome to New York City, and this is our Best Sights series, Episode 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, New York City.
If you enjoy our videos, please subscribe, like, and share so we can continue to provide you with the best in travel tips, news, and information. Join us on our journey as we give you a front row seat to the best sights in New York City. We'll give you all the important details like when to go, how to get there, how much is it going to cost you, and a whole lot more. First, you might be thinking, do I really need to get a New York City Tourist Pass? Let's take a look here at some of your options. Now, we're not saying that you need to get a pass. For some people, it works out great. For others, not so much. Basically, it comes down to what sites you want to see and how many you want to see. So we did a little test. We planned on going to most of the top sites over a 10-day period. A few of us got the passes and a few of us paid site to site. And in the end, we crunched the numbers and it worked out better for the people who had the passes. Basically, I would take a look at each one of these passes, see if they include the sites you want to see, if there are any restrictions, crunch the numbers, and you decide. We'll add a link below to each one of these passes. And here's what we have in store for you for Episode 1 of the best sites in New York City. First, we take you on a walk across the world-famous Brooklyn Bridge. Then we move down to the financial district, where we get a closer look at the Charging Bull and the Fearless Girl. Next up is the observation deck at the edge, where we get to walk on glass 100 stories above the city. Next up is this impressive 16-story structure known as the Vessel. And finally, we take a walk through the beautiful St. Patrick's Cathedral in the middle of Metropolis. First up on our journey today is the Brooklyn Bridge. Not only one of the most famous sites in New York City, but probably one of the most requested ones to see as well. So when is a good time to visit the Brooklyn Bridge? Usually very early in the morning is better than the afternoon. You might even catch the beautiful sunrise, and generally weekdays are less crowded than weekends, and usually more crowded in the summer than in the winter, and definitely more crowded around the holidays. Now let's look at how to get there. For most of the sites on our list, you can get there by taxi, Lyft, Uber, bus, bicycle, or even walk. But let's focus in on some of your subway options. As you can see by the map here, if you want to start on the Brooklyn side, you can take the AC to High Street. And from the Manhattan side, you have a bunch of options. From the west side, you can take the A or C, or even take the 1 train and transfer to the 2 or 3 at Chambers Street. You could also take the RW to City Hall, and from the east side, your best bet is the 6 train. And now for the price. Yes, it's free. It's free to walk across, take your bike, and believe it or not, it's free for cars to cross as well. No matter how many times you've walked the Brooklyn Bridge, you still have to enjoy that picturesque view as you come upon it. Now the bridge might seem a little crowded, but as you walk across it, it starts to thin out. And fortunately, as of 2021, they added a bike lane, so it makes it a little less crowded to walk across. Plus, you have the option of renting a bike and enjoying the bridge ride. Let's start our journey across the East River. Okay, when this video was shot in December, merchants were permitted on the walkway of the Brooklyn Bridge, but as of January 2024, that is no longer the case. Let's see how long that lasts. And it's a shame, because their prices were really good. So, for the most part, the bridge is pretty safe. Just be aware of your surroundings and keep an eye on your belongings. Let's continue our journey across the bridge. There are some gorgeous views from the bridge. Let's take a little 360-degree view. You can see the Statue of Liberty in the distance, a nice little view of the financial district, and next door you can see its little and slightly less popular brother, the Manhattan Bridge. But don't sell the Manhattan Bridge short. I've done the walk across, and you get some incredible views from there as well. As you get further into the bridge, the crowds thin out a little bit. It's a little easier and more comfortable to move around, as well as getting some great photos. Now for a little history. Construction started on the bridge in 1869. The Brooklyn anchorage was completed in 1875, and the Manhattan anchorage in 1876, and the bridge was opened in 1883. I believe those are the numbers. And you could also see that people hang locks from the bridge like they do in the Pont d'Arc in Paris. This is a photo from when we were there, and I don't think the police look too fondly on hanging locks on the Brooklyn Bridge, just so you know. And here we have a little history with the Brooklyn Bridge plaque, and we want to give a special thanks to Emilia and Alfredo for joining us on our sightseeing tour. And what would a day at the Brooklyn Bridge be without a bunch of photo ops? And we can't forget the incredible view of Lady Liberty herself. If you look south off the bridge, you can see her in the distance, and it's especially picturesque if you can catch her at sunset. It'll be a little more crowded, but I think it's worth it. Now we travel down to the financial district to check out the Charging Bull and the Fearless Girl. Many tourists come down to the financial district for a variety of reasons, but personally, I think the Charging Bull and the Fearless Girl are worth the visit. They both have great history, symbolism, and are very photogenic. Now let's take a look at when to go. I've passed the Bull a few times, and there's no consistent time where it's either really busy or really empty. You just have to take your chances. But if you go early in the morning on the weekend or late at night during the week, you might have better luck. But every time I've gone, the line has never been that long. And I think the longest I ever had to wait, and it was during the holidays, was about 15 minutes to take my photos. Not too bad. Now let's look at how to get there. Again, you could take an Uber, Lyft, bus, bike, or walk, but let's look at the subways. Coming down from the west side, you can take the 1, R, or W and get off at Rector Street. And if you're on the east side, you can take the 4 train and sometimes the 5. But the 5 doesn't run at all hours, so check the schedule. But for us this day, basically we just walked there after visiting the Brooklyn Bridge. Now let's look at the price. And of course, both of these are free to visit. Here we are on Wall Street, the financial capital of the world. Money, power, greed. You know, you've seen the movies. The financial district is actually a pretty cool neighborhood to walk around. There's a lot of great architecture and a lot of history. And if we have enough interest, we'll cover this neighborhood in a future episode. As we approach the Charging Bull, it's kind of hard to miss a 7,000 plus pound bronze sculpture in the middle of the street. Now, some people line up for a photo at the head of the bull, and some people line up at the tail. We've done both, but today, we're tail people. It's said by rubbing the bull's balls, you'll have luck, prosperity, and financial success. I'd like to believe it's true. Next up, and a short walk away from the Charging Bull, is the Fearless Girl. The Fearless Girl statue was originally placed in front of the Charging Bull, but was later moved here in front of the New York Stock Exchange. The statue represents gender diversity in the workplace and female empowerment. Next, we're moving on up to the 100th floor. At the edge, observation deck, Hudson Yards. And being the highest outdoor observation deck in the Western Hemisphere, and being able to walk on a glass floor 100 stories up is really a sight to see. Now let's look at when to go. We listed the hours below, but that doesn't tell the whole story. If you're the type of person who likes to avoid crowds, you might want to come early morning or midweek in the afternoon. The most popular time and the most crowded is during sunset to get that beautiful New York City picturesque view. Now that you've figured out when to go, let's look at how to get there. Just like the previous sites, you can get there by taxi, Uber, Lyft, bus, bicycle, or even walk, and it's located at the north end of the High Line. So if you plan on visiting the High Line, you can go to the edge before or after your walk. As you can see here, the best train to take would be the 7 train, and you can transfer to the 7 train from 42nd Street at Times Square Station on the west side or Grand Central on the east, or just take the ACE and walk. It's really not that far. Now moving on to the price. And no, this one is not free. As you can see by the general admission and the packages offered, it's most likely going to cost you a little more if you go during the sunset hours. And here are the passes that include entrance to the edge. Just make sure the pass you get does not have any restrictions, like going during sunset hours, if that's something you want to do. Now let's make our way to the entrance of the Edge on the 4th floor at the shops at Hudson Yards. And don't worry, there's plenty of signs leading you to the entrance. And when you get there, you'll see some self-serve ticket machines in case you want to buy your tickets right there. Or you can purchase them online or just activate the site on whichever city pass you bought and walk on in. And as you walk down the hallway into the next room, they'll scan your ticket, and on the ceiling, they have this really cool light display of New York City. As you can see, going in the middle of the afternoon, on a weekday, in the middle of winter, there was almost no one online, which worked for me. Next up, we go through security, then up the escalator, Fortunately for me, with my somewhat inconsistent navigating skills, they had arrows pointing the way. Next up, you walk down this pretty cool and psychedelic hallway of lights. I believe there's 3 main reasons why they make the walk to the elevator at these observation decks so long and intricate. 1, it's entertaining. 2, it's educational. And 3, it keeps the lines from backing up at the elevators. If you could think of another reason, let me know in the comments. Actually, I thought the displays here at the Edge were quite interesting. And as we got to the elevator bank, only 2 elevators, which was the least out of any of the observation decks we went to. But fortunately, there was only 2 people ahead of us in line, and I really do enjoy the show they put on in the elevator for the 52-second ride to the 100th floor. So sit back and enjoy the ride. Well, that was fun. Now it's time to get out of the elevator and explore new heights. You could see there's some indoor space, but what we really wanted was to be outside. So a quick spin through the revolving doors and onto this very open and magnificent space on the Edge. And if you wanted to sit down to enjoy the view, they have this great stadium-style seating. And if you go to the top, you can really get some incredible photos from up there. As you can see, most people like to conjugate in this area to get magnificent views and walk on the infamous glass floor 100 stories above the streets. Let's take a little walk. And what would a trip to the Edge be without getting a few photos to remember the day? And let's not forget about the beautiful and incredible panoramic view you get of New York City. What I like about the view from the Edge, it's all the way on the west side of Manhattan and in a great location to get an incredible panoramic view of the entire city, which gives us a different perspective from other observation decks we travel to in this series. And here, Emilia is nice enough to point out 2 other observation decks we'll be traveling to in future episodes. And if sunset is when you want to visit, you will get some incredible views, along with larger crowds. And the sun kind of sets more over New Jersey than New York, but still a breathtaking view. And if you're looking for other experiences while visiting the Edge, you could always try out the Peak restaurant on the 101st floor, one above the Edge. You could also try out the seasonal Sky Skate. I think the kids might like it. You get to skate on fake ice. And for true high flyers, you can try City Climb and scale the outside of the skyscraper to its highest peak and lean over for a truly incredible experience. As we finished our journey at the edge, we'll give you a little view of the show we got in the elevator ride on the way down. And this elevator show is a perfect lead-in to our next site. The Vessel at Hudson Yards. The Vessel is very convenient to visit, especially if you're going to the Edge or going to walk the High Line. So if you plan on visiting either of these attractions, make sure you work the Vessel into your itinerary. Now let's look at when to go. Pretty much any time, since it's located outside in the middle of Hudson Yards. But if you want to walk around at ground level inside, as you are not permitted to climb this structure anymore, I listed those hours below. Next up, how to get there. Pretty much the exact same directions as going to the Edge, since they're basically in the same location. So go back and refer to those directions, but I'll give you a few extras. If you're coming in from outside the city and arriving at Penn Station or the Port Authority, you can take the train or walk it. It's a nice walk. And like I mentioned earlier, it's a great start or ending to your High Line walk, which extends from 34th Street to 3 blocks south of 14th Street on Gansevoort. Next up, the price. And yes, it's free. Since you can't climb it anymore, obviously they don't charge you just to look at it, and they didn't even charge us to walk inside. All right, now let's take a little closer look at the Vessel in Hudson Yards. You get a nice view of the Vessel through the windows at the shops in Hudson Yards. But I think my favorite approach is this one from the north side. And although many people come to see the Vessel, take photos with it, there was a lot of criticism with the Vessel when it was first opened, but that has lessened a little bit. And you could really get some great photos at the Vessel of your friends and family. And every time someone comes to visit New York, they always want to see the Vessel and take photos with it. And here's the difference between visiting on a cold day, me on the left, and a warm, beautiful day, McBean on the right. Generally, the crowds here aren't too bad, but basically it follows this simple equation. As the temperature goes down, so do the crowds. Now join us as we take a walk inside the Vessel. Like I mentioned, they didn't ask us to pay to go in. They had guards outside to regulate the amount of people inside and to keep the line moving. Remember, as we enter, you're only allowed to be on the first floor and the stairs. And as of now, you're no longer permitted to climb this structure. Even though, as of now, you're not permitted to climb this structure, if there's not a long line to go inside, I still think it's worth the visit to get a look and a few great photos. As you can see here, the first time we came to the Vessel, you were permitted to climb it, but unfortunately, due to some sad and very tragic events, as they had 4 suicides here, they decided to close down climbing the Vessel indefinitely. And last up on our list, at least for this episode, is St. Patrick's Cathedral in Midtown Manhattan. This majestic and iconic cathedral in the center of Manhattan is definitely a sight to see. Let's first look at when to go. I listed the hours below, and obviously the cathedral will be more crowded during holidays and Mass. And here is their Mass schedule in case you want to attend, but always check ahead to see if there are any schedule changes. Now let's look at how to get there. St. Patrick's Cathedral is probably one of the easiest sites to get to, as it is located directly in the center of Midtown Manhattan. And since it's in the middle of Midtown, almost every subway line stops there, but you'll probably be in Midtown at some point during your trip, so I think your best option is to walk there. Next up is the price. And yes, it's free to enter for all. Although if you want to give donations, you'll have options inside and online. I'll add the link below. Let's first take a look at how this beautiful cathedral fits into the New York City landscape. It's really amazing how St. Patrick's Cathedral occupies an entire city block in Midtown Manhattan. The main entrance to the cathedral is on 5th Avenue between 50th Street and 51st Street, and if you still can't find it, it's right across the avenue from Rockefeller Center. As there were no special events or mass at the time I went, the front door was not an option, so I used one of the side doors on 5th Avenue. Let's go inside and have a look. The first thing you'll see when you walk in is this security station where they'll check your bags. Now just sit back and relax and enjoy some breathtaking views from inside this beautiful cathedral. And in case you want to come in for mass or just sit down for a bit, they have plenty of pews available for the public. And just in case you're sitting a little too far back or have obstructed views, they have these large TV monitors strategically placed throughout the cathedral. And as I had mentioned earlier, you'll have plenty of opportunities to donate once you're inside the cathedral. You could also pick up a St. Patrick's souvenir medal or something from the gift shop to remember your day. As far as the mass schedule that we mentioned earlier, weekday masses run for half an hour and 1 hour on Sundays. Even though entrance to the cathedral is free, you do get something a little extra with these passes. I believe you're provided a free self-guided audio tour. Just show your pass to the person at the tour desk and they'll take care of you. I think the iconic St. Patrick's Cathedral should definitely be on your short list of places to go when you visit New York. But now I think it's time that we leave St. Patrick's and move on to our next site and our next adventure. I hope you enjoyed episode 1 of our New York City Best Sites series, where we show you all the best that New York has to offer. If there's any sites that you want to see, let us know and we'll try to include it in future episodes. I hope this helps you the next time you visit New York. Safe travels. Please subscribe, like, and share to keep up with all our latest travel news, tips, and reviews, and we do appreciate it as it does help support the channel.